This is A Few Good Fights. I'm your host Rob, as always, and I'm joined by Sean Taylor, who smacked the microphone. Thanks, Sean, for ruining my intro.
Hello, babies.
Yeah, sorry for ruining your intro as well.
Thanks, Rob.
We are joined today by the great Jimmy Smith, of course, former UFC commentator, former Bellator commentator. Jeez, I'm saying former for a lot of things. He'll kill me. But, all around gent. He has a podcast these days, which is great. You can check that out as well. But we're talking about UFC 247. We're talking about judging, the hysteria about the problem with judging in MMA. We're going to fix it today, Sean. We're going to give our suggestions.
We're going to fix all of judging's problems.
Yeah, we're going to fix it with Jimmy Smith. And we're also going to talk about Conor McGregor versus Manny Pacquiao and a lot of other things, including this weekend's card coming up. Plus, we're going to answer your questions that you submitted this week, and there's some juicy ones, Sean. So if you don't stay till the end of this show, you're an idiot. Okay, so we're now joined by Jimmy Smith, former UFC commentator, Bellator, Invicta, everywhere, and also now a podcaster. You can check him out on YouTube. I watch it all the time. Jimmy, thanks for joining us, and how's things? How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I just got back from Canada, actually. I did a show there last weekend. It was freezing, unbelievably cold. So, yeah, it was an experience, man. So, during the Jon Jones fight, I was actually in Canada. I had to catch up with it the following Monday. And then I was on SiriusXM yesterday, and I'm on again tomorrow. So, yeah, it's been a good week, man.
Had you seen the result when you got back on Monday, or did you watch it?
You can't avoid it. I mean, it's just like you want to be in the MMA world. You have to know you're going to know everything as soon as it happens. And it was just, I could have caught it after the fight, but people don't understand. Like when you call a fight, at least me personally, I'm exhausted. I can't do anything at all. So I had to go to sleep and catch my play and all that stuff. And I cut up on everything Monday. And so I was like 2 days behind, but you know the results immediately. Yeah. Unless you're dead. Right.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll start there. So Jon Jones, he beat Dominick Reyes, and in a lot of people's opinion, he didn't beat Dominick Reyes, but on the judges' scorecards, he did. What was your thoughts on the fight first, and then we can talk about the whole judging and decision bit after?
Well, I thought Dominick Reyes, his movement really befuddled Jon Jones. Jon Jones is used to what I call big brothering guys, which is using that lead hand and then his the oblique kick. He's always keeping you right where he wants you to be, and he couldn't find Dominick Reyes. That was the first thing I noticed about this fight is, man, he can't seem to get a beat on where Dominick Reyes is going to be, and he was eating a lot of punches because of it. So I thought Dominick Reyes came in with a great strategy. He was confident, and one of the things about Jon Jones is guys don't really find their game against Jon Jones. They seem to kind of get rattled or not be able to fight the way they normally fight. They're almost a deer in headlights. They can't quite figure it out. Dominick Reyes had none of that. None of that. He came right after Jon Jones with a ton of confidence, and he believed he could go out there and win. And that's something you don't see often with Jon Jones' opponents.
It seems like now Jon Jones' opponents are getting closer and closer in terms of at least the fight. At least if you look at the Thiago Santos fight, it was closer than a lot of the fights, and now this one is very, very close. Do you see this as Jon Jones regressing or leveling out, or do you just see it as guys getting better?
It's hard to separate those things in a sense. It's like a race. When you're in front, are you slowing down or is everybody else getting faster? Well, it's a combination of things. Here's one thing I will point out that I don't think since probably the second Gustafsson fight, so Anthony Smith and beyond. Yeah, I'm going to ask you guys a question. Have you had a moment in those three fights, his last three fights, where you went, wow? No. It just hasn't been there. No. In a sense, I was talking to Big John McCarthy yesterday on SiriusXM Radio, and I don't know if you guys remember Michael Jordan with the Washington Wizards after his, at the tail end of his career. He was scoring points. He belonged in the NBA. He was doing okay. He wasn't Michael Jordan. Oh my God, a one-handed dunk from the free throw line. He wasn't that guy anymore. Jon Jones, whether you thought he won, you thought he lost, or whatever you think about the division, it's been a long time since I saw anything from Jon Jones that made me go, oh my God, that's a water cooler moment. I mean, he had, even in the last two rounds he beat Dominick Reyes in. I thought Reyes won the first three. It was a straight on pedestrian kickboxing match, looked good. But we didn't see those things that made us believe no one was going to catch Jon Jones. Yeah. That aura, that awe-inspiring talent, it doesn't last forever. Everybody slows down. I think we're seeing that with Jon Jones.
Do you think that's a case of him being a little bit more tactical in his fights and maybe fighting maybe fighting not to lose?
The only reason you do that is if those gifts aren't there.
Yeah.
You don't suddenly go, I think I'm going to fight a conservative game plan. If it's working, If you're explosive, unorthodox, timing-based, range-based attacks are working, you don't suddenly start running the ball 5 yards every time. If you have a quarterback that throws for 500 yards a game, the only reason you run the ball 10 yards at a time is when you don't have a quarterback that can throw the ball 500 yards a game. So even those decisions, I believe, are a reflection of his understanding that guys are coming up, they're younger, more explosive, and more physical, and I'm not quite there anymore.
Do you think there's any kind of complacency here? Because you'd mentioned that if you look at like the Alex fight, the second Alex fight, he looked pretty good in that. He got a finish. Then you look at the Cormier fights, he looked really good in that as well. And I guess the thing they shared was that a lot of people thought those guys had a chance against Jones, whereas for the rest of the opponents in the last while, I think a lot of people have said, this is kind of an easy fight for Jones. These guys aren't on his level. And it turned out they were closer than even the Cormier fights. Do you think that Jones is maybe getting a little bit complacent with the guys who he's expected to beat?
I've heard this argument a lot. And my response is, you don't hold a title for a decade overlooking challengers. Yeah. And people like to kind of give him that out at the end, like, he wasn't up for that fight. His fight wasn't a big deal. Every fight to the challenger is a big deal. It's always the biggest fight of their career. And he's been at the head of one of the most talented divisions in UFC history, 205. So he wouldn't have made it this far and this long if he didn't get up 4 fights. So it might be a factor. It might be a possibility at this point. But you just don't have the run of success he's had and gone, this opponent really doesn't do it for me. Well, he wouldn't have made it this far at all. Maybe he got extra up for DC or the rematch with Gustafsson or something like that. But I don't believe he's checked out. I think it's an excuse people give him afterward. Yeah.
So let's get into it. How did you score the fight?
3-2 for Dominick Reyes. I thought he won the first 3 rounds. I didn't think they were that close. And remember, I was watching it having already known the controversy and all that stuff. So I was looking at those rounds because I tend to go pretty easy on judges personally.
Yeah.
I was looking for a reason to give it Jon Jones. I was going, okay, what are they seeing that the fans are that don't see? What are the ways I could give this to Jon Jones if I was really trying to? And I couldn't. I really thought Dominick Reyes won the first 3 rounds pretty convincing. He was landing the better punches. He was throwing more. He was landing more. He was landing more hurtful punches. And Jon Jones's offense was limited a lot of times to range finding stuff. The oblique kick started working better in round 3, but okay, that's not a fight ending shot. I'll take one of those. Doing it much better with the range, but wasn't really landing him anything of substance in the first 3 rounds as compared to Dominick Reyes, who I thought was really doing well. So I had a 3-2 for Dominick Reyes.
What would you say to Jones and the people who say that his takedowns were the difference in the fight?
Got to do something with those. First off, he didn't get them until rounds 4 and 5. So they weren't a factor in the first 3 rounds, which are the controversial rounds.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I would say. Number 2 is you got to do something after you take somebody down. If you want to look at Ilir Latifi, Derek Lewis, okay, great. Got the takedown. Wonderful. Didn't do a lot with it. Lewis got back to his feet and they started over. You got to do something with him. So those are my two counter arguments to that is A, they weren't a factor until late, which most people thought he won the late. And B, you got to do something with the takedown. Dominick Reyes did a good job of popping up after those takedowns.
Yeah, and I think you have to give credit to Reyes for getting back to his feet because a lot of people look at, say, when someone gets taken down, the guy getting back to his feet as almost a defensive maneuver, but like it really should be looked at as an offensive maneuver because the guy who's trying to keep the other guy down is on the defense. He's trying to prevent the guy from getting back to his feet. He's defending the guy getting up. So I think when people have the mindset of, well, that guy is defending a takedown, well, not really. He's attacking because he's trying to get back to his feet and put it where he wants it. It's an offensive maneuver almost. So I think people don't really look at that kind of thing. They look at it as, oh, this guy is on the defense, but he's getting back to his feet. He's on the offense.
The way I see it is almost like getting an opponent cornered in boxing or getting them against the fence in MMA. Great. You have the position. Now you're going to what? If you got somebody in the corner in boxing and stood there and just looked at him, you don't get any points for that. That's not what the corner is for. The corner is, man, I got him where I want him. Time to unload. Taking someone down. Okay, you're on top. Are you going to pass? Or am I going to see some ground and pound? Are you going to advance position? If you're not, you just wasted the energy necessary to get a guy down. I don't see it as, I see it as a positional advantage, but you have to use that positional advantage. And that's the other side of it.
There was also some other pretty bad scorecards on the card. But what's your thoughts on the whole judging situation? Because a lot of people now are calling for different systems. They're calling for a lot of things, but overall, how do you feel after seeing the bad scorecards further down the card with the James Krause fight and also the Jon Jones fight? What do you think the solution is for this judging fiasco?
If you can't drive a car, do you guys drive stick? You guys know how to drive a manual? I know in Europe there are just more manuals than in the United States. I can drive both. If you can't drive an automatic, to go, hey, we're going to give you a stick that was made in 1964, drive that. All these suggestions just make it more complicated. Like they can't drive a regular car. You're saying, oh, we're going to have this half-point system. We're going to have them judge the fight as a whole. Look, please explain to me how, if you can't judge a 5-minute round well, you're going to judge a 15-minute fight or a 25-minute fight, which is much more complicated and there's a lot more to it. Rounds break things down into manageable pieces. If you can't manage a small piece of a fight and judge that correctly, we should do the whole thing at once. And there's no system change that's going to work. A bad judge is a bad judge no matter what. They could use flags. It doesn't make any difference. The problem is the judges a lot of times aren't educated. They don't have a background in the sport. They've been mostly boxing guys. They've been in it a long time. There's no accountability. We see the same bad judges over and over and over again until those things get fixed. And also, the size of commissions, and that means a lot. I think UFC took a big risk going to Texas with 2 title fights. Yeah. That's a commission that, it's not Nevada, it's not California, it's not New Jersey, New York that does a lot of MMA. They don't. So the idea that you're going to risk 2 titles in a commission that might not be up to the same standards as other big commissions, that's a huge risk. And I've been out in small little commissions in other states that just didn't have it together like other commissions did. It's a matter of standardization and education. If those things don't change, I don't think the system means anything.
Completely agree.
You can have all the systems you want. I mean, you can make any system work with educated judges. The system is kind of irrelevant. It's like everyone in life. If you have education from the bottom up, it just works a lot better.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's and this idea that the boxing scoring system doesn't work. Whether you hate the boxing scoring system or love it, it's pretty simple. You can't screw it up that badly, and yet they somehow do. And so that's the issue. Adding more judges might help, but look at what we had. We had a unanimous decision the wrong way. Meaning, if you had added 2 more judges, it wouldn't have made any difference. It would have been the same bad decision. So I'm not against that. And do commissions want to pay for those extra judges? No, they do not. So there are just a lot of issues. And I think education and understanding and more uniform training is the only way around it.
Accountability is a bit of an issue as well, as in that judge probably isn't going to have to go back now and say, okay, this is why I scored it this way, this way, this is why I scored this round to John, this is why I scored this on the Reyes. He's probably going to get another fight next time there's a card in Texas, realistically.
Yeah, that's the issue is, refs get screwed. They get, they get, and sometimes they deserve it, but we know who they are, and man, screw that guy. The 2 of you are knowledgeable MMA fans, yes?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right.
I hope so.
Name 1 judge from the Jon Jones fight.
Jon Jones. Well, I have the guy's second name, Solace.
Don't look at it.
I have it in front of me. I shouldn't have even said that.
You're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
I know the referees. I know Herb Dean. I know a lot of referees. Rob Hines. I know a lot of them. And I can name those guys.
Yeah.
Who was the judge? You wouldn't know them from Adam if they were walking in front of you.
We shouldn't know them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't know. So it's one of the things where we as fans, no matter how knowledgeable we are, we usually couldn't pick these people out of a crowd. And yet, they're ones who really decide who wins the fight.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. You mentioned it there, but of course the commission have to accept responsibility. But you mentioned the UFC have to take some responsibility for bringing such a big fight to a state that clearly has some problems with their commission. Do you think that should be discussed more? That the UFC has to take the responsibility to go to a place, especially with a Jon Jones fight, that has capable judges, capable referees, or at least employ those capable referees and judges.
Yes, I think that's definitely an issue. Now, one thing about the expansion of the UFC and how many new fighters they have and how many fights they have to have, they're just going to have to go to a lot of different commissions. You can't have as many fights as in California, Nevada, New York, and New Jersey. You just can't do that. So you have to have these local fights in states whose commissions aren't as experienced. Do you have to bring 2 title fights to those commissions? No, you don't. Night. And so, that's certainly an issue. That's certainly something, Dana White, who is openly critical about the scoring, that's something he's going to have to think about. Hey, if you guys do this and keep and don't educate your judges better, I can't come back here with a title shot.
Yeah.
I can't come back here with title fights. I can't come back here with pay-per-views, with the big stadium selling fights. You're going to get the medium level ones, and that doesn't make as much money for you.
Yeah. It's crazy as well. Like, you have to look at it from Dominick Reyes' perspective. If he doesn't get a rematch, like, his paycheck significantly decreases if he's not fighting for a title, especially if he's not a champion. If he's champion, they make a lot more money, and of course you know probably more about that than us, but do you think that Dominick Reyes should get an immediate rematch after what happened?
Number one, I'd like to see it. Number two, the is there. Number three, who else in the 205-pound division sells right now? Yes, there's a heavyweight fight against Stipe. I think the shine on that was hurt severely by his performance against Dominick Reyes, simply because a lot of people think, man, Stipe really did a job on him. Israel Adesanya, maybe, but he has to get past Yoel Romero. That is no gimme. So when you look at the 205-pound division, Corey Anderson, all right. It's show me the big thin money. Wow, people would really be interested in this fight. I think Dominick Reyes right now has the most juice.
Yeah,
I do think that an immediate rematch benefits Jon Jones more than it does Dominick Reyes. I mean, if you give Dominick 2-3 more fights and then do a rematch, I think he's in a far better place. But again, like you said, Jimmy, there's not a whole pile there in that 205 division at the minute.
If you are Dominick Reyes' people, meaning his trainer, his coach, can you see 3 names at 205?
This is also a problem.
I mean, it doesn't have the big name value, like I just said. Like, it wouldn't necessarily be a pay-per-view seller or anything crazy like that, but it's not a cakewalk either. Hey, 3 more and you get Jon Jones again. Okay, we've seen that not work out well for a lot of fight. Right now, Dominick Reyes is super hot. He's probably getting more attention with the loss than he might have with the win. Just so many people talking about it. Now's the time. You got to strike while the iron's hot. And if you couldn't beat him before, meaning for fans that are, man, I don't know if you can beat him twice. Well, if you can beat him once, you can beat him twice. You can't beat him once, you can't beat him twice. So might as well put up or shut up and see what we can do with it.
Yeah.
If you're Jon Jones's people, what are you advising?
That is a very, very tough question because only they and he know really what the deal is. The trainers know how much this guy has left in the tank. They can lie to us all day. They can, press, he's the great best camp I've ever had. Oh my God. Look, we all hear those things over and over and over again. And we found out later, like, they had freaking a disease that was rotting their spine.
Foot with a balloon.
Foot like a balloon. It was awful. Look, only they know where he is. My personal feelings is, look, if you know your guy has 1 or 2 more big fights before it's over, might as well get the biggest fights you possibly can. And as we just said, right now, Dominick Reyes, I think, is the biggest fight. If you're going to lose, do you want to lose to Corey Anderson, right? Do you want to lose to somebody else in the division? If you're just slowing down and someone's going to catch you eventually, might as well make it the biggest fight you can and get paid.
If light heavyweight doesn't have options, I think you look down at the other title fight, I think we have less options there. Valentina Schevchenko beat Caitlin Chukagian in a fairly one-sided fight, I think we can say. The performance was what it was. It was a good performance, but I think there's a clear disparity between Valentina Schevchenko and pretty much everybody else in that division. I think that's fair to say.
Valentina Schevchenko and Amanda Nunes are just the top of their food chain, and that's going to be the case for a long time. There's just no way around it. What I would say to you guys, you guys are soccer fans, yes?
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. So, why are soccer players so much better in Europe and Latin America and everywhere else than the United States? Because if you're athletic in the United States, you go into other sports. It's just not big enough here to get the best athletes. That's a great point. You need a large pool of people to make one elite athlete. You need a lot of people playing soccer to get a Ronaldo, to get a Pele, to get those guys. You need just a ton of soccer players to weed out that one diamond. The problem is 125, 135, 145 for sure in the UFC and even in Bellator. They just don't have the talent pool to find another Schevchenko. If you walk into, I was with Anthony Smith yesterday on Sirius, and we were talking about it, and he's training with James Krause right now in Kansas City, and I said, if I walked in there with a 125-pound female and said she needs some sparring, who would she go with? And Anthony Smith went, they're like 2. And now, if I'm a welterweight guy, I can throw a stick and hit somebody that can give me some work, right? And so the problem is that the talent pool at 25 and 35 isn't, and especially at 45, isn't big enough right now. It's going to be a long time till they produce another great fighter like that. 115, I think, is very competitive. A lot of great fighters there. But 25 and 35, it's a one-woman show in both of those divisions.
Yeah. Great point.
Great point.
It's a little bit different in like Eastern Europe and that, where those guys are just bred differently over there. As in they're born into fighting in those types of countries, so you're more likely to produce someone brilliant over there. Yeah. But like America just hasn't got the pool of fighters. People end up in fighting when they have not succeeded at another sport.
Yeah,
really.
You see so many ex-football players getting into MMA. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Why? Because you could make $50 million your rookie season.
Yeah.
It's a great soccer player in Europe isn't go, I think I'm going to fight. Okay, forget it. I'm making $100 million. I'm making crazy money. Why would I do that? And also, if you look at a lot of it, where did Schevchenko come from? The Eastern European kickboxing scene, which is big. I mean, people don't understand in the United States that European kickboxing is big enough that you can make some money and people go into it early. So that's another thing too. So that's why fighters more come from wrestling in the States, because they do that their whole life and then can't figure out a way to make money, so they go to MMA. Europeans tend to, generally speaking, come from a kickboxing background. The issue is, what are you going to do in terms of, could Schevchenko and Nunes fight again? Well, they already had twice. They weren't the most. They were very close, but they weren't the most entertaining fights in the world. It would be an admission that you don't have anything at 25 and 35. Does UFC really want to do that? They're in a tough spot in both of these divisions, because it isn't just the UFC. I think Bellator with Cyborg has the exact same problem. She blows away Julia Budd, and then it's like, okay, what are we going to do with her? Any warm body at 145 is going to have to do for right now. So that's the problem with women's MMA in general. Since Gina Carano, it's been a one-woman show. Gina Carano, then it was Cyborg, then it was Ronda Rousey, right? And then it was Nunes, now Schevchenko. Now we have two. Yeah. But it's still just a very top-heavy division.
Yeah, it's going to take years. In other news, we'll move away from that card. In other news, I don't know if you've seen this, but Manny Pacquiao signed with the same management group that Conor McGregor is with. Of course, Conor revealed that him and Manny were in talks to potentially fight. Let the cat out of the bag. I was talking to somebody who was talking to managers and stuff, and they were talking about this like over a year and a half ago around the Khabib fight. So there is rumours of that, but what's your thoughts on this, Jimmy? Do you think that this could potentially happen? Conor McGregor versus Manny Pacquiao in a boxing fight.
Unfortunately, yes. I'm right there with you. I have no tolerance. I have no patience for this stuff. Yeah. I didn't buy Mayweather versus McGregor. I have no interest in seeing an 0-1 boxer take on one of the greatest boxers of his generation. I just don't have any interest in seeing that. Will it sell? Yes. Will fans watch it? Yes. But I think Conor gets blown away again, probably faster, simply because the only reason the first one was even slightly competitive is Floyd is a cautious fighter and he's a slow starter. Say what you want about Manny Pacquiao, the dude is not cautious. I was there when he fought Keith Thurman last time, and he starts quickly, has phenomenal hand speed, and I don't see that fight going well at all for Conor McGregor. Now, I'm just... how long will they go to that well before fans go, okay, we get it. Elite boxers box better than elite mixed martial arts. I don't believe it. Like, it's crazy. Like, when you watch MMA, another thing that, if you, follow all aspects of the sport, most UFC guys or even top MMA guys, when they go to Abu Dhabi, these great submission tournaments, they get smoked. They're just, they're good for MMA. They aren't good against someone who does this for a living all the time. So it's a similar kind of thing. I don't know if you saw Ben Askren wrestle Jordan Burroughs. What happened? He got tech-falled in like a minute because Jordan Burroughs is right now in his prime and Ben Askren isn't. So it's one of those things where anytime you have those, like, I want to see a great person in this individual sport take on a mixed martial artist, 9 times out of 10, the individual athlete who's great at that one thing beats the mixed martial arts. They just have too much to do to be an Olympic wrestler and an Olympic boxer, and you just can't do that. Yeah. So I don't know how often they'll go to this well. They'll go till it doesn't work, but you're going to see a lot of beatings in the meantime.
Myself and Rob were talking earlier, and I was like, please don't let this happen. And Rob said to me, which sells better, McGregor v Gaethje or McGregor v Pacquiao? And I was just like, oh... It's McGregor.
I hate it. Yeah, I hate it. Yeah. Same thing. I mean, I the people I talked to, like, just on the street before Mayweather McGregor, who literally thought Conor McGregor had a chance.
I know.
I was just like, what planet are you from that you think this is gonna? It's just it's insanity. It's like you try and tell them it's not processing for some reason. And so there were people like, oh, Ben Askren just might beat Jordan Burroughs, and I went, you don't watch enough wrestling to make that comment. Period. So. Oh God, it'll probably happen, and the difficulty as an MMA fan is it's going to take away from Conor McGregor fighting in MMA. I mean, it's how long is the camp? 4 or 5 months maybe, and then he fights, and then who knows? He gets his ass beat. How long he'll be suspended or whatever. So it takes away from our sport, and I don't like that. Yeah,
and do you think like last time out when he fought Mayweather, it didn't really affect his MMA career in terms of like it didn't take a hit. Like he lost to Mayweather, he shouldn't get a title fight or he's shot. But do you think, if this happens again, and after like coming back and, looking good against Cerrone, you can argue that Cerrone wasn't a great opponent at this stage of his career, but do you think that, going into boxing, it would kind of hurt his MMA career even a little bit because people are like, oh, come on, we saw this once and now you're doing it again and you lost so easily, and, do you think it'll affect him going forward, or do you think this is going to be another blip on the radar, extra money, and then he'll be back?
People who think this can affect you don't respect the sport.
Yeah.
Like, people just don't. Dude, you can take one shot and get brain damage. You can take one shot and there's a big problem. There's a huge injury. You can take one shot, especially because Manny Pacquiao can hit you 20 times before you know what hit you. You're always taking a risk. You're taking a gigantic risk. And the people who don't care about, the YouTube guys boxing on DAZN, that's not a big deal. Like, you don't realize how easily this can go off the rails bad.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen more than once. So the idea that, it's just a whatever. It's a fight, and fights can go really badly. So will it hurt him if he gets out of there comparatively clean? Maybe not, but just the timetable. It's going to take 6 to 8 months out of a guy who hasn't been consistent over the last few years at all anyway, without injuries. So it's just one more thing that chips away, in my opinion, at his MMA career.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue the fight against Floyd. There's a very strong argument, in my opinion, that it shouldn't have been sanctioned by an athletic commission.
Yeah.
An 0-0 guy against Floyd Mayweather. I mean, any other fighter other than Conor McGregor, that fight doesn't get sanctioned.
Yeah.
For sure. But money talks.
Yeah.
It all goes out the window when it's this second highest pay-per-view in boxing history, third, whatever it was.
Highest gate or something as well of all time.
They're gonna make it happen. So that was really the deal. No other 0-0 professional boxer takes on the greatest boxer of his generation. That fight gets sanctioned. It just doesn't happen.
What do you think is the right fight though for Conor? Assuming he stays in MMA. Let's get rid of the boxing stuff. He stays in MMA. Yes. What's the next move for Conor?
I was surprised it wasn't Masvidal.
Same.
And I was really surprised simply because it's out of his weight class. So you have that like, he lost at 170, but it's not really the same. You want to keep him away from
Justin Gaethje.
You want to keep him away from anybody that can damage his legacy and upset a shot at Khabib.
Yeah.
But I don't think a fight against Khabib goes any better than it did the first time.
No.
So I'm kind of surprised they're talking about Khabib being next. It's like, well, he's kind of just getting back on track, and I think he takes another L in that fight. So the problem with 155 right now and 170 is there aren't many we'll keep you busy with this tune-up right now. It's a division of murderers, and 170 is full of murderers who wrestle better and are bigger and can take his punches. So I'm really surprised they didn't set up Masvidal next, and regardless of what happened with Masvidal, then he would take on Khabib. Because Justin Gaethje is super dangerous. Not that Conor can't beat Gaethje, because he can. But if Gaethje wins, it's eyes wide shut in the middle of the octagon. What happened? Waking you up, taking you in the back, and you're staggering around. Yeah. That's how that guy wins fights. And that's the kind of loss that makes people question whether or not you still have it. You don't want to run into one of those before Khabib.
Yeah, and especially because Gaethje, as well known as he is in the MMA circles, outside the MMA circles, if you take all Tony, Khabib, even Cerrone, those type of guys, a lot of people know who they are. Gaethje's kind of flying under the radar for the casual fans, so losing to somebody like him would probably affect his legacy even a little bit more.
And super dangerous.
Yeah.
So he's that anti-sweet spot of it's not a huge, it would sell well because it's Conor, but it wouldn't be like an over-the-moon pay-per-view seller, and the guy hits like you stole something from him.
Yeah. The risk and reward there doesn't match up.
The risk and the reward just isn't there. Now, I would love to see that fight.
Yeah.
I think Justin Gaethje deserves that opportunity. I think putting him right now against Khabib, having not had a win in the division since 2016. Let's not forget that. He hasn't won at 155. He's going to get a title shot at 55. Yeah, there are issues with that, and I'd like to see them resolved.
Yeah, me too. Bellator announced that Gegard Mousasi and Douglas Lima would fight for the vacant middleweight title coming up, and you also have the Bader versus Nemkov fight as well. But first, the Mousasi-Lima fight. What a fight. Great fight.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer for Bellator. I mean, losing Rafael Lovato Jr. sucks for them because he's homegrown. He beat a well-established UFC free agent. He's a guy they really could have built on, and he's done for now. Which sucks. And incredibly disappointing on a personal level, very nice guy. But Lima versus Gegard Mousasi, I mean, there wasn't any other fight to make at 185. It's just not a super deep division in Bellator. Douglas Lima just winning the welterweight tournament. He beats Donald. He gets $1 million. He's on a streak right now. A loss really doesn't hurt him. And maybe he wins, and you guys can, meaning Bellator, can say, hey, look at our guy. Double champ. He's the best welterweight in the world. They can certainly say that. So I think any other fight for the title at 185 wouldn't have made sense. There were some decent fighters there, but the biggest names right now, certainly Gegard Mousasi and Douglas Lima.
Where do you think that Douglas Lima actually does stack up in that kind of middleweight division? Like, if you had all the middleweight fighters in together, do you think he's like top 5 or somewhere thereabouts?
In Bellator or in general?
Just in general, like if you had the UFC stable, all middleweights, where do you think he kind of fits in?
Right now, I think he does well. Simply because we kind of had an exodus of 185 pounders in the last couple of years. Obviously, Jacare, Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold, Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos. A lot of talent has moved out of 185. Now, the ones that are still there are no joke. They're very, very tough. What happened, and I will say this quite honestly, what has been Douglas Lima's kryptonite has been the takedown, has been the wrestling, has been the guys who can get in there and wrestle with him. If you stand with Douglas Lima, by the way, have you guys ever met him?
No.
Been to a show?
No.
The dude is a giant.
Yeah.
You look at him and you're like, how do you make 100? He's huge. He's light heavyweight sized. I'm not joking. Like, he towers over most guys. So he has the physical gifts to compete at 185. He has the power to compete at 185. The issue would be a determined grappler. And that's going to be Gegard Mousasi's strategy for sure. Determined grapplers have always been his problem. Even when he lost to Roy McDonald and Andrei Koreshkov, guys who didn't have that D1 wrestling background, they took him down. That was their key to success. Now, if you kept him away from those guys, he can beat just about anybody. If you threw him against some established Division I wrestling guys and guys with great takedowns, then you start having a problem.
Yeah. So
it's about how he's matched up and who you put him against. That's the big thing. But he has the frame and he has the power at 185.
Who do you favour in this one? We're kind of far out from it, but who would you favour going in?
Right now, I would slightly lean toward Gegard simply because he can do a lot more. And every time he's faced somebody who really tried to take him down, it's been bad for Douglas Lima. Of course, against the last fight against Roy McDonald, he did much better. Gegard's a lot bigger. So how does he handle a 185-pounder, a guy who fought comfortably at 205, by the way? I remember that one.
Yeah.
Who's going for the takedown incessantly? That's going to be the problem because that's how Lovato Jr. was able to beat Gegard. Gegard's going to come back and try and do that to Douglas Lima. That's going to be the strategy because make no mistake, Lima can lay you out all the way up to light heavyweight.
Yeah, he's a big puncher. Nemkov and Bader. That's a tough fight for Bader. That's a kind of an unknown-ish guy, protege of Fedor, kind of in Nemkov. And yeah, I think this is a really tough one for Ryan Bader.
Yeah, well, Ryan Bader, if he goes to his wrestling, this is a guy who's as we just said, man, Division I at Arizona State. The guy has a great takedown. He's going to have to go to those skills. Nemkov's, his leg kicks are they're nasty. All right, they're nasty. That's the only way to put it. A power puncher for sure. He's got to stay upright to use those gifts. And the difficulty right now is 205 pounds. The whole reason that Ryan Bader went up to heavyweight is 205 just doesn't have a whole lot in Bellator right now. This is a guy who hasn't been that active at 205, hasn't had to dive in there against a lot of different guys simply because of the nature of the division. So at heavyweight, they fight very, very differently. So it's about the adjustment going back down to 205 and facing guys that move more, are more athletic, can do a lot of stuff. That mental switch, because Bader was just, not only was heavyweight sized, he's more explosive and a better athlete than anyone else in Bellator at heavyweight, period. He was just a better athlete. Now, Is that the case at 205? He has to take on a guy, Nemkov, who's a natural light on his feet 205er. Can he make that switch? I believe he can. I would get closer to breakdown as the fight itself gets closer, but right now I'd lean toward Bader just because his wrestling top shelf.
Yeah. Rashad Evans was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He debuted new MMA gloves designed by Trevor Whitman, of course, the coach. I'm just going to show a quick video and then we'll come back and we'll discuss it.
I'm going to show you these gloves. I brought some gloves to show you.
So has he developed a different glove for MMA for competition as well?
Yeah, so this
has
is
the UFC seen these? Because they need to make some adjustments. Clearly.
Yeah, we're talking with the UFC, but these are so these are the ones.
Curved. I like how it's curved.
So it's curved.
So it sets up that you are in a curved position
already
early on.
Because when you, as you know, when you get the gloves now, they're like a cardboard.
They want to open your hand.
Yeah,
almost.
They always want to open your hands, but this allows your hands to stay in a natural fist locked position, and you don't got to worry about that.
Oh yeah. Okay, so it's curved right away.
Yeah, curved right away. And then when you,
that's way better. Yeah, like the old Pride gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good padding too.
So it's.
I like them a lot. These are definitely better than the ones UFC's using right now. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
So it's, if you see the X strapping system in there, that also goes in there. So then that way it makes it so that your hand, you don't get the boxing break on your hand. It keeps everything, all the muscles, all the ligaments and bones in place. So that way when you're punching, everything is in form.
So there we go. So Rashad Evans, he brought these new gloves in which have a natural curve to them. But one thing I've noticed that a lot of people aren't talking about is that Bellator have been using like a naturally curved glove for what? How many years? Probably 5 years, 4 years? I don't know how long it's been.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. They don't get any credit for it. It sucks, but it's very part and parcel of the Bellator.
It is, yeah.
So they have this naturally curved glove that I wore a couple times. And it kind of keeps your hand like this. You can't poke somebody if you tried. It just doesn't let your fingers extend like that. And I think it's great. I think it's a great development. I think people are tired of the eye poke issues and it costing people fights and careers. I mean, it can really be nasty. By the way, broadcasting, a little behind the scenes, that's the worst replay. I can't when they let's see it again, and the finger goes in his eye. And do I have to see that again? Really? I need 3 angles of that. That's my least favorite replay is the finger in the eye because it's so bad in slow motion. So the fact they're trying to do something with that means a lot.
Yeah.
It seems like such a simple thing as well, as in just curve the glove.
Yeah.
I mean, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
And the UFC, the biggest organization, haven't done it yet.
Yeah, it's weird. But did it actually fix the eye poke, or at least reduce the amount of eye pokes from your experience watching the Bellator fights? Did you see any difference?
Yeah, I did. And the way eye pokes happened was very different. Meaning you couldn't really do this. So people got, you're in a grappling situation, you kind of got your eye raked or something like that. That happens all the time. But I'd rather get this than that. And that became way less prominent. Less prominent. So that was really the issue. You couldn't, shoot a double leg and someone would do that in your eyes, which is the one where you could lose an eye and all that stuff. So you had eye issues, but they were way less severe because of the nature of the glove. Yeah,
there was one other thing about it. Actually, first thing, a lot of people get confused because when Joe Rogan tried on the glove, you could see he did extend his fingers, but it's not even that. It's to stop fighters naturally extending their fingers, isn't it? It's not like you can still do it if you try, but a lot of the eye pokes come from the natural, wear of the glove. It's not that they're trying. It's just
people
the hand
pulling the hands out as well. Yeah, you're just putting this feeler out there.
Yeah, it just naturally comes out. That's what the problem is.
Also, what it does, if you have to try to do this as a referee, I can go, stop that.
Yeah.
It's clear what you're doing. You're trying to do this. This isn't, I'm putting my hand on his head and it's naturally doing this.
Yeah.
No, if you have a curved glove, it would naturally do this. You're trying to do that. Cut that out right now.
Yeah.
And so I think that helps a lot in terms of referees. When you have to exert an effort for a foul, it's much easier to go, you did that intentionally. That's a point. That's 2 points. Whatever it is, it'll give them that leeway.
Yeah. One of the other things Rashad said was that these new gloves, they're designed in a way to protect the hand more. I'm not sure.
They're 7 ounces.
Yeah, are they 7 ounces?
They're 7 ounces, I think,
Yeah, he also said that they're designed in a certain way to protect the hands. Do you know what that could be? Like what normal UFC gloves would need to actually protect the hand more?
They'd have to be heavier.
Just heavier?
You couldn't have, if you know math, 4 ounces of mass is 4 ounces of mass. You can't have more protection in something that's the same size. You'd have to add more padding. You have to add extra layers or something like that. So the problem is the glove might get a little bulky because, you get kind of the Bruce Lee, remember, Enter the Dragon, pad on it. Yeah, sure, that can protect your hands. But another thing to keep in mind is boxers break their hands all the time, and they have a ton of padding, 10-ounce gloves, 12-ounce gloves. So it's just the nature of the sport. It's hard to protect your hands. It's just, it's almost like saying this glove protects your head more. Look, you're getting punched in the head. There's only so much you can do. So it's a similar thing with handbrakes. I mean, boxers have their hands wrapped a lot thicker than MMA fighters. They have thicker gloves, and they're always breaking their hands.
The gloves.
So it's just there's only so much you can do, in my opinion.
There's a fight this weekend, Anderson versus Błachowicz. Just want to talk about the main event really quickly, and we'll let you go, Jimmy.
Sure.
What's your thoughts on this one? It's a light heavyweight fight. These guys are potentially going in here to look and say, put their claim on this title fight that might not go back to that rematch. So what's your thoughts on this? Who are you fancying going into this fight?
Who I'm looking at right now, what I'm looking at partially is momentum. I'm looking at explosiveness. I'm looking at versatility. I think Corey Anderson just has the edge in those categories. Jan Błachowicz, of course, a win over Gegard. That was not a scintillating fight, to say the least. It seemed like he was doing just enough to kind of stay ahead. He didn't put a stamp on the division with that win. He won, but it wasn't, you're coming up to my division, I'm going to show you. I didn't get that at all. Corey Anderson against Johnny Walker, that was I'm going to destroy you and move up. I think Corey is right now a guy, not only explosive, not only powerful, not only a great finisher, but all the confidence seems to be behind this. Yeah, Jan Błachowicz got the knockout over Luke Rockhold. I didn't think he followed up on that momentum as well with Gegard, and a lot of times it's about your last fight. Of course, Corey Anderson got the win before. I would throw that right out the window. It's just they both developed substantially. I think right now the momentum is with Corey Anderson.
Is there anything, I know you said that the rematch is what you want, but is there anything that these guys could do in this fight that would convince you to say, actually, no, let's give it to, Corey Anderson or, whoever?
If Corey Anderson does what he did against Johnny Walker, yes. If it's another get out of my face, this is over, I'm crushing you, and he does another one of those to Jan Błachowicz, who's a very tough fighter, big for the weight class, everything. And also, Johnny Walker is very unorthodox and loosey-goosey, and it's easy to kind of land a big punch on him. Jan Błachowicz doesn't generally take those kinds of risks. So if you can get a performance like that against someone like that, I think that's a big statement, very big statement. Then he might get it. But what Reyes has that Anderson doesn't is the indignation. I was wronged. You got to make this right. I think that's a very important motivator for the fans and for the UFC.
I agree. And we'll leave it there. You can find Jimmy Smith on YouTube. It's just Jimmy Smith, isn't it? The YouTube channel?
That's it.
Yeah.
Very, very simple. Jimmy Smith MMA.
Yeah, you'll find it. We'll link at the bottom as well. But Jimmy, thanks for coming on. We always enjoy talking to you.
Anytime. Appreciate it, guys.
Cheers, man. And now on to your questions, the most important part of the show, I think. First up, it's Nebrem. Dominick Reyes was critical of the decision victory for Lewis, citing that Latifi had better numbers with his 3 takedowns. I disagree because MMA is divided into rounds, so overall numbers don't tell the full story. Latifi had 0 takedowns in round 1 and 1 takedown in round 3, but Lewis, we're missing this bit, but I have it, outstruck him in round 3. Do you think Cruz was overlooking this point? Heavyweight question, sorry. Yeah, that's the thing. When we had old Pride rules and we were scoring the fight overall, it's different. But when you are scoring fights based on rounds, that does change things. So yeah, I think it was a very close fight myself. I wasn't really sure which way I scored it because I wasn't really scoring it at the time. Sometimes, Sean, you're just watching a fight and you're trying to enjoy it, even though this wasn't the most enjoyable fight.
You have to watch fights differently when you're scoring them. I
agree, and that's judges have a job to sit down and judge a fight. I don't think necessarily they can enjoy the fight as much as we can. So yeah, I do think I don't think it tells the full story when you look at it in that way. So yeah, I think you're right in that sense. But to say who won the fight, I thought it was close. I'd have to rewatch it, which I don't want to do.
Derek Lewis should have got the decision victory just for throwing a flying knee in the fight.
Yeah.
So that's cool with me.
I think Latifi's hilarious looking at heavyweight. I don't know why. He just
what do you weigh, 245 or something?
Yeah, he's just a lump. He's just a lump.
Yeah.
Love it. Next up.
Go for
Sean. You can get this one.
I get the long one. Linus, I don't get why fans get upset when fighters like a Conor or a DC skip the rankings line and land right in a title fight. Excuse me, I got illiterate there for a second. Number one, Dana lets them skip the line because there are fight fans want to see anyway. Yes, sorry, there are fights that fans want to see anyway. And 2, it doesn't happen nearly as much as it does in boxing, and it really doesn't happen much at all. With that said, would it make sense for the UFC to do something like in boxing where champions have a mandatory title defense? I don't know how this works in boxing, so it may make no sense.
You've asked the right person with Sean.
Yeah.
Sean knows his boxing.
The structure of the sports is just different.
We always get to this. The structure is so
different. It is different though,
Yeah.
and it kind of is similar. As in, Conor and DC get to skip the line because they're superstars. So John can go up to heavyweight and skip the line because he's Jon Jones.
Yeah.
You couldn't structure it in that like there is a mandate. You see, the reason people get to skip the line in boxing is because you have 4 ranking bodies, and the way you get ranked in one is pay the sanctioning fees for some shitty rankings belt. Is how you get ranked.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. So that doesn't happen in the UFC. So the rankings, take the rankings for what they are for now.
Yeah.
The rankings are assumed to be correct. So the number one guy is essentially the mandatory defense.
Yeah. I wouldn't trust the rankings in MMA.
No, totally not.
Yeah.
But
not that I trust them in boxing either.
Yeah.
But like,
so generally, say top 5 guys get a title shot in some form or another.
Yeah.
Like if number 1 is injured, it's not going to go numerically, of course.
Yeah.
But like generally, the guys will get a title shot. So like you're not going to have someone coming from the only way you have someone come from nowhere is if it's a Conor or a DC or if someone pulls out a late notice and you need a replacement.
It kind of plays into the question we had last week, or I don't know if it was a question or it was just a discussion we had about how Conor, is he like setting a bad precedent going forward, skipping the line? And our answer basically was we don't think so, because there's only going to be a handful of fighters who can do that. It's not going to be a common thing. So I think it's similar here.
Yeah, DC kind of has it at heavyweight now, or if he says, look, I want Stipe next. If say Francis is next for Stipe and DC says he's mine, DC is probably going to get it because he's DC. There's not really a whole pile of other guys who can do that. John can step up to heavyweight and say, I want a title shot. Conor can probably go to heavyweight and say, I want a title shot because he's Conor McGregor. But there's not, you can name on one hand the guys who can do that, who have that power. So
and I think with MMA, a lot of things I think that fans are attracted to with MMA are also bad things when you get deep into the sport. For example, like the whole pay structure, the whole league structure, the independent contractor argument. Like, as a whole, you could probably look at that as a bad thing because, fighters should be paid more. But then when you step back and you're just looking at it as a fan, the reason why a lot of people became MMA fans is because these systems existed. And with these systems, you can get the best fights. You can get these scenarios where we're seeing the top fighters fighting the top fighters, and you just can't get that if the fighter was as segmented like it is in boxing.
The thing with mandatory defences in boxing as well is they're generally quite shite.
Are they?
In all honesty, because what you have is guys who've paid the sanctioning fees, got the rankings belts, walked their way up, fought some good fights, but they're not. The guys aren't big names. Yeah. So it's guys who people would avoid because they're not a big name. Yeah. Tough as fuck. Yeah. It's generally guys like awkward, slick guys to box. Yeah. Like you're not going to pick them out of a crowd and say, I'll fight him. Yeah. It's not the money fight. Yeah. So the mandatory is a way of enforcing people to fight people that they would otherwise avoid. Yeah. Whereas you can't really avoid people in the UFC because the UFC dictates who you fight. Yeah. I mean, you can turn down fights, but then you won't get offered anymore. Yeah.
And let's be real. I think in the UFC, for the most part, the best fighters do fight the best fighters. We get some, these examples, but for the most part I think it's good.
Yeah. Did you actually you spoke about the league structure and that. Did you see Andrea Lee speaking about when Kobe came to talk to a bunch of fighters at a fighters retreat a couple of years ago?
Oh, with Kobe,
Colby, sorry.
Yes.
And he sort of said, guys, you got to fucking unionize here.
Yeah, he's got to work together.
It's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Sorry, next question.
Rest in peace. Victor Garza, I get an easy one. Question: if you had the power to fix scoring issues, what would you do differently? Oh, this is the big question. There's the rabbit hole. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, the biggest problem is education, or the biggest solution, or the best solution is education. I think that the system is fine if you have competent judges. The system isn't fine if you have incompetent judges. And I think right now we have some competent judges. We have plenty of incompetent ones. Like the fight on the weekend, in my opinion, that was a close fight. I don't think you can look at that solely and say we have a problem. you can maybe argue some of the rounds. But like the ones further down the card, where
Texas was the problem though.
Yeah. Texas was the problem. But if you look further down the card, there were some egregious scorecards down there for the same judge as well. But yeah, I think if I had the power to fix the scoring system, I would educate the judges way more, and better. And maybe as well, like I'd have something like after each event. I don't know if they probably do this, but after each event, they have a meeting with their superiors and they explain their scorecards. Even if the scorecards are fine, I still think they should have a discussion. This is why I scored it this way. And some kind of oversight in that sense, because I don't get the sense that there is oversight.
Yeah. I was chatting with Noel about this earlier, and we sort of
Noel? Who's that guy?
Prick. We sort of like, you can make any system work really if you have educated judges who know what they're doing. The problem is, in a lot of cases, a lot of these judges, they don't score effect properly, or they don't understand the rules and what they're actually scoring. There's no, again, like what you said, going into a room and like backing up their score and why you scored like this. There's no accountability. Like they don't have to come out to a manager and say, this is why I scored it this way. It's just, this is the fight, and they've fucked over someone's career because he has an L on his record now. You can make any system work really if you have effective judges. Like the system, the 10-point must system can be argued over and back, and whether it's a boxing system, whether it applies to MMA. I mean, it's there now at the minute. If you trained judges properly, then I think you can solve a lot of problems.
Like the way I look at it is, if you go and look at that fight on the weekend, the Jon Jones fight, you add in, okay, what's the major things? Open scoring. Is open scoring going to fix the issues that happened last weekend? No, it's not going to fix the issues. Like,
it makes the fighter aware.
It makes the fighter aware, but it's not
good.
It's still not fixing the issues. Like, just because you know you're down a round doesn't mean you can go out there and win the round. Like, I mean, it changes things significantly, but it doesn't fix what the issue was. The issue is a lot of people thought that guy got the rounds wrong. Does adding more judges fix the issue? It might help, but it might make it worse because you have more incompetency sitting there on a cage side. What's the other ones? Half points. Does half points really fix it? No, probably, because they probably wouldn't have used them. They might have went the other way.
More 10-10 rounds is a thing, I think.
More 10-10 rounds, I think. But I think the ultimate thing is more education. I really do.
I think everything in life, Rob, comes back to more education.
Exactly,
Build it from the bottom up.
Like, I mean, if you and I know it's different because we have the luxury of rewatching fights and stuff like
100%.
that. But if you look at, say, the live scoring from MMA websites, for the most part, they're fairly clear. When a fight happens, it's fairly clear who won a fight based on that. And it seems like the guys who are watching the fights, who are writing, they know the sport, and it's clear enough. There's always going to be fights that are close, and your rounds are always going to be up for interpretation in any system, where there's no, like, like in amateur boxing, and there's like, they count the scores and the scores are somehow calculated. I don't know how amateur boxing rules work or whatever, but when you have a system where, you have to assess the situation, and if a round is close, you have to like pick out what the most important parts were, there's always going to be differences of opinion there. It just depends on how wild they are based on the education. Like,
something you do see in amateur boxing is a count back now and again. If a fight is a draw, they'll count. There has to be a winner. So they'll count back through the rounds and they'll tally up strikes and stuff. Noel was mentioning this earlier about Muay Thai, where sometimes you'll see on a scorecard a 10-10 round, but there'll be an asterisk beside it, which means it was a close round. I don't know whether they go back and look at it again.
Or it's just
but it's like, it's worth noting. There's a million different things you can do. Like, it's a rabbit hole.
Go for it.
Big long one here. Were the judges corrupt?
She-wolf. No,
tinfoil hat time, innit?
I think so, yeah. Like, my thing is, Occam's razor, where it's like, Occam's razor essentially is in like problem solving. The most likely scenario is the one where there's the least amount of assumptions. And I think you have to have so many assumptions to get to the point where you're saying that the judges are corrupt. The easiest assumption is the judges were not very good judges.
The easiest assumption is that judge doesn't know what the fuck he's watching. Like.
And we have some evidence based on his previous scorecards. I think that's what happened. I don't think it was corruption.
3-2, close fight either way, whatever. It's not a robbery. 4-1 is a scandalous scorecard.
Shocking. Salvastola. Jon Bones Jones seems to be several picograms slower in his last 3 fights. Is USADA finally doing their job? I know a lot of people are like laughing about this, but do you think there's some truth to this potentially? Like, it seems to have coincided a little bit.
I wouldn't trust Jon Jones as far as I could throw him.
And he's a big boy.
Big dude, man.
Yeah, without throwing any accusations out, I think you have to look down all these threads and have a discussion about it, because, I mean, the OSP fight, you know, apparently it was the first one where he was getting tested by USADA. He looked fucking horrendous, or at least getting tested properly.
He's the most tested athlete in the sport, like, as well, which is worth noting. But I've said many times, if you fail a doping test, you should also fail a fucking IQ test. Because no one is doping in camp. They're all doping out of camp when they're training and it's recovered. You don't get any benefits.
But you have random testing now.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Don't know.
Wink, wink, nod, nod. I don't know. Like,
we're clearly sitting on the defense here.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, it's picograms. Like, what the fuck is a picogram going to do for you?
Yeah.
But it was in his system at some point,
and they're pulsing all over the place.
Yeah. So
pulsing.
It's asterisk there somewhere.
We'll put an asterisk on that one. Yeah. 7 foot James. Lots of people are saying the Reyes fight has positively influenced their view on Adesanya's chances against Jones. Personally, I'm still not sold, as I feel the size discrepancy will be too great. Essentially, he's given us reasoning there. So is he off on this? He's just interested to see what we think. Like, my thing is, I do think the size discrepancy is huge, and it'll be a big problem for Adesanya, and that's why I'm not fully sold on the fight. Like, when I said it to Sean Sheehan last week, he was like, of course I am. And like, I feel like anytime I ask someone, are they interested in the fight, they're like, yeah, 100%. But for me, I'm just still not.
I think you're interested in the fight, but I think you're just taking it with the side portion of the size difference is huge.
But also, like, Jon Jones hasn't looked good, so I can understand why. Like, I mean, if it's a straight up stand up fight, like, Adesanya has to have a chance, doesn't he? He's got to have a chance.
Yeah, I agree. I want to see the fight. But I think one of the main reasons we kind of want to see the fight is getting a little bit bored of Jones just fucking milling through contenders like everywhere, which is, like, again, hypocrisy from us.
Didn't really happen last time, but
no, it turned out to be a good fight, but I didn't watch this fight and automatically think, geez, yeah, Adesanya has a better chance now.
No.
I don't think this fight has positively influenced my view on that fight. No. My view is pretty much the same on it after. It was what you said, like, and Jones is going to have the weight advantage and the size advantage. He's just, if he grappled him, he'd sit on him for 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Like, so
the grappling is where I see the problem. You know, and that's a big boy grappling.
But we have seen with Jones before, where he wants to beat you at your strongest point.
Yeah.
So
although he did try take Reyes down.
Reyes' takedowns defense was very good.
Very, very good. Really good. Very surprising, especially late when he was tired.
Yeah.
Keegan Irwin. Dustin recently said he wants Nate in late May.
Match.
Given that no dates have been announced for that yet, do you think this could be a surprise Conor McGregor versus Gaethje fight after Khabib versus Tony? I don't see what the question is.
Yeah.
It's both.
Dustin v Nate. Dustin called it at 170, actually. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Like, no one else. Conor is the only
player.
Nate's 170. Conor is the only guy who can decide to fight a lightweight fight at 170, right? Okay, just put that to bed. Every other lightweight, shut up about it.
Yeah, or just move up to 170.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what's going on here. I guess it's like, because that fight hasn't been announced, do we think that Conor fights Gaethje?
I don't think the UFC lets Gaethje near McGregor.
Yeah, you've been saying that.
Yeah, it's the fight I'd love to see, but I just don't think they let him near him.
Too dangerous.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's not a big enough fight to equal the risk.
The risk reward isn't.
The risk reward isn't there.
If
Conor loses to Gaethje, like, no one knows who Gaethje is. Not that no one knows it. Like, we know who he is. Do you know what I mean?
He's not. People will take that wrong, but you're right.
He's not a needle mover.
No,
as Dana would say.
Oh shit.
He's not.
Diaz will be out.
He's not.
Yeah, you're right though.
Yeah,
like,
I am right.
People are gonna go, "What you mean?" Like, he's right. Like, if you talk about Khabib, Tony, Nate Diaz, and maybe even Dustin Poirier, Gaethje's at the bottom of that list in terms of notoriety. He just is.
Conor Dustin's a rematch I wouldn't mind seeing.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too. Yeah. Dustin hasn't been calling for that at all, which is interesting.
I had this question from Shitty McTitty.
Great avatar.
What a fantastic name. Great work, so I nearly wouldn't even bother reading the question. It's only downhill from that username. Yeah,
you won already.
Shitty McTitty says, "What?
Such children.
What do you guys think of Jack Hermansson's chances at middleweight? We in Norway and Scandinavia hopes that he can become our first champion, but is that realistic?" Adesanya called him out as someone who could cause some problems down the line. So, I mean, if he's looking like he's obviously a couple of fights away from being in that contention, but if Adesanya's looking down the line and saying he can be a problem, then
there's something there. Like he lost his last one to Cannonier, right?
Yeah.
It was a bad loss for him because he was on a good run.
Yeah.
But like I've kind of underestimated him over the last while, Hermanson. But like he's clearly skilled. Like he held his own in the grappling situations with Jacare. Done really good against Dave Branch, who's, you know, a very well-rounded fighter. Not top level, but he's very well-rounded. And he's done well. He is 31, so he's plenty of time left. I mean, you know, he's...
And that middleweight division, you know, a couple of them have beaten each other. And
exactly,
yeah.
I think he's good. I think there's a chance. If I had to put a bet on it, I don't think he's going to be the one, unfortunately, my man.
Not at the current state of the division.
Exactly. But contention...
Yeah.
He might. You never know. You never know. He might. Next up.
Apologies.
It's all good. I am Black Note.
That was nicely done, Rob.
I know. So the first one is about the solution to judging, which we already answered. But the next one is, what's next for Valentina Schevchenko? Maybe the UFC should consider making her fight 2 opponents back to back just to make things fair. Most people think she should go down in weight rather than up. Yeah, it's really weird. She's off for 6 months now. She got a 6 month suspension. Not really sure why. It could be a precautionary thing where she go back, she get checked up, and like actually now you can go back after a month. Yeah, grand. But yeah, I honestly don't know what's next for her. I really don't. There's like Jessica, I asked for another shot.
Jesus. I don't think so. I let myself out, don't worry about it.
We'll leave that one in.
Think she should go down in weight. I'm not really a fan of recommending people going down in weight just in general. I think most people are already fighting at the lowest possible weight because they tend to cut as much weight as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, the Amanda rematch, the trilogy, it's really all that's out there. Like.
It is, and it's unfortunate that the other 2 fights weren't that exciting.
Yeah.
That's the only problem. But
I think both of them have come on a lot. I mean, both have been really exciting in the last few fights with big finishes and exciting fights.
Do you think Amanda wants that one?
Not sure. Amanda needs it less than Valentina, I think.
Sure.
So
the only one out there really is Jojo Calderwood. You know, I like Jojo. Good fighter.
Do you know what that is? That's a co-main event on a pay-per-view, Rob.
It is a co-main event.
That's exactly what that is. Do you know what? 100%. We've an alright main event. We'll stick a world title on the co-main.
I completely agree.
Exactly what that is.
Maybe that. Keegan Irwin, if Till can manage to get through Cannonier impressively, is he granted the next title shot? How do you see a fight between him and Adesanya playing out? Can Till freeze him with the footwork, or does Israel catch him slipping? That'd be a real classic striking match of the power puncher, I guess, non-volume striker against the volume striker in Adesanya, I think. So Till with the power and stuff. Be a fun fight. I really like it. Does he get the next shot if he beats Cannonier? I think potentially, simply because I think if you look at the contenders there, he's one of the bigger names still, even though he's lost a few. I think his resurgence, you know, people love a comeback story, and it seems like he's on that bit of a comeback story now. He has a win over Gastelum. Gastelum only fought for a title. Cannonier's flying high. You have also what's his face? Middleweight. Not Romero. The other dude. Costa. Jesus Christ. Costa. I think he's the rightful next contender, but you never know what's going to happen with him. Yeah. So yeah, I think with a win, you never know. Till could be getting in there with the champ.
Yeah, I think if Till wins, his next fight would be for the title, but I think the next in line is Costa.
Get you. He might wait around. Yeah, he might wait around.
Can Till freeze him with the footwork, or does Izzy catch him slipping? Man, Izzy's such a slick fucker with the feints.
Yeah. I'd favour Izzy in that.
But I was so impressed with Till's win over Gastelum was so impressive because it was kind of something we'd never seen him do and go out and sort of get a win out there. He kind of always went out, even the 2 fights he lost. Yeah, he was trying to finish him from the start.
And it does make you wonder if the weight cut was a huge problem for him.
Did he knew he couldn't go the rounds and maybe
the chin was suffering because he took some shots and he looked good.
I'd like to see Till get another win, say Cannonier, and then someone else.
Yeah,
a solid dude. And then get a title shot, and then I think you have a really interesting fight. There's some that middleweight division is hopping at the minute.
Middleweight
it's
is
really
phenomenal.
good. It's really
middleweight
good.
is really, really good.
Shane McDonald says, "Hey, how you doing? Good, man." Any word on Joe Duffy's next fight in the UFC, or will he be fighting at UFC London? He hasn't fought since last March. I was actually wondering about this the other day. What's Joe Duffy up to?
I have no idea. his last post on Instagram, because I did see this question, I was like, oh my god, yeah, where the fuck is he? His last post on Instagram is with Ali Abdelaziz, saying he loves Ali and he's been great to win all this.
I seen
Just
that,
thought that was
yeah.
quite funny. But that was like November. I've seen no news about him fighting. I'd assume if there's any card he's going to be on, it'd be
He's on a bit of a skid, isn't he?
I think so, yeah. Like it's been so long that I can't remember who he last fought.
He fought on the London card where Till lost to
and he lost
Masvidal,
to somebody. I can't remember who he lost to.
Man took an L.
We'll check it out. The thing with Joe Duffy is that like I think he's one of the like more skilled guys who just hasn't performed as well as he could have in the UFC. Like he's incredibly skilled. Mark Diakaze, I thought that was a good fight from him as well.
Yeah.
And then before that he lost to James Vick by TKO. It's not a great look. So yeah, don't know where he is. Couldn't find, but yeah.
Who do you match him up against as well at this point, you know?
Yeah, 2 fights skid.
He's at lightweight as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean as well, if you look at his wins, right, he's very skilled, but look at his wins in the UFC: Jake Lindsay, Ivan George, Mitch Clark, Reza Madadi. That's his wins. And he's lost to Dustin Poirier, James Vick and Mark Diakaze. Not a great look, but I'm a big fan of Joe Duffy, so let's see.
Yeah, hopefully be to see him out again.
Yeah, I think this is the last one. Is a big one. Filthy Casual on Twitter asked, with the judging debacle at UFC 247, it's clear nothing will change soon in the US as there's too many states with all different rule sets adopted. Do you think that represents a chance for other countries to pilot scheme new judging criteria so the USA can see it and use it if successful and adopt it to replace the terrible system they have set up? Or should they dump the entire system and begin a new MMA regulator that oversees the entire country and therefore can implement rules and be held accountable? A lot of pieces there, but essentially, should smaller promotions trial different judging rule sets, and should there be an overall commission, I guess, for MMA in the US, which there kind of is, but it's kind of fractured?
I'll hop on this one for a second. Yeah, myself, Noel and Carl sort of said this earlier. The UFC, you can't trial this stuff. It's too high stakes. It's too high level, too big to trial. You can't go at World Championship level and trial open score. You just can't.
Open scoring lads today.
Yeah, you just can't.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest problems in boxing and in MMA in America is the state-by-state structure. Because you might have 30 states will say, yeah, we'll do this, we'll agree to this, but then you're going to have 20 states who will make it easier for a fight to happen. So like the UFC aren't going to go and put, I've said this before, they're not going to go and put Tony and Khabib in California who will pull a fight last minute because of a weight cut. The UFC are going to put that fight somewhere they can get some shady shit going on just to make a fight happen. So where you have 10 commissions trying to improve things and make it for the better, you're going to have 10 commissions who will say, nah, fuck it, we'll do it. You're just undercutting each other, and there's competition there because they want to bring the revenue to their state. And that's one of the big problems. So yeah, if you had an MMA regulator, I think that's fantastic. I think that would be very good. And you say every state has to abide by this. Every state has to have, I don't know, open scoring, 10-point most system, unified rules, all this, whatever. Because the state-by-state structure just doesn't work. There was some other stuff in this, wasn't there? The smaller promotions, this is where this shit has to be tried.
100%. Like what about something like Dana White's not looking for a fight, the contender series, something like that. Like, I mean, tell the guys before going in, listen, we're doing open scoring, we're doing half points, we're doing 5 judges, we're doing whatever the system is. Again, I think education is the main thing to improve the system itself, or to improve the overall thing, but there's no harm in trying these systems. Maybe they'll help a little bit. You know, you never know. I think open scoring is a weird one, but we talked about earlier on.
I'm not sure. There's a million different things. I mean, 10-point must is just taken from boxing and applied to MMA. That doesn't really work. I mean, it's an awful rabbit hole you can go down. There's pros and cons for each one. It's like what works and what doesn't. But yeah, I think the state-by-state structure is a shit show. Because I spoke to you about this before, that you have Bob Bennett, I think, is the commissioner in Nevada. And he's making it quite awkward. He's actually losing a lot of big fights for Vegas to make, because he's just making it awkward for those, those shitty undercard fights where it's like a name against some bin man. They're getting quite, I say, they're getting a little bit stricter on who they'll accept. So you can't pick a bin man and put him in. You have to pick someone acceptable,
like the manager of the bin factory.
Honestly, that's literally what it is. And it's losing them quite a lot of fights because Texas will say, we'll take him. So then the big card goes to Texas because Nevada wouldn't approve 5 undercard fights. So
that's capitalism at play there. So that is.
Last question you said, was it?
I think that's the last question, yeah. It is.
Excellent.
Great stuff. Thanks to Jimmy Smith. We'll leave a little cut there just in case. And it was a great show as always. And go check us out on YouTube if you're listening on audio, because these questions that we just answered, we put up a thread every Tuesday and Wednesday for questions. If you want to be in a chance of getting a question answered by the lads.